Told you it was your lucky day.
What happened?
A miracle.
This great miracle of radio really gives me the opportunity to speak to you on the air.
Jay Talking.
Quiet, we're on the air.
With Bradley J.
I said, get up! Give him the phone tonight. 'Cause you know you feel better.
So let's talk.
Jay is talking.
You hear me talking?
On WBZ. Call 617-254-1030 to join in. For notification of new Jay Talking videos at cbsboston.com, follow Bradley J on Twitter at JTalkingWBZ.
WBZ 69 degrees, and another month has passed. A month has passed since Michael Coyne was in, Dean of the Massachusetts School of Law, and school has started. You're 3 weeks in. You guys get an early start, right?
Yeah, we started. Actually, in our ending our second week of classes, we had a week of orientation, and it seems we're on a pretty good pace already.
So it's all smooth. You've done this before.
Yeah, I've done it for nearly 30 years now, so it does become second nature. But it's always good, as I was saying to you before. You bring a new class in, they're enthusiastic, they're eager, they want to learn the law, and teaching first-year students, you really get to see quite a transformation over the course of even just a single semester, and it's the part of the job I enjoy the most.
What is the big change you see?
You see that they start to think to a much greater extent about the ramifications to every case, how the law evolves over time. I think, unfortunately, sometimes a little cynicism grows in them over the course of their time in law school, and we as professors have to be careful that we continue to encourage actually the thought that justice is achievable and possible, as opposed to it's just about bending the rule of law to suit our clients' needs. And so there's a balance there. But I think you really do see the development of their minds where they really start to look and analyze things differently than what they might have done when they first started law school.
You have put together a number of topics. That's one thing great about you. Not only do you come up with ideas, but you also know how to frame it as a question, which is a big help for me. And then you would reject ideas that couldn't be framed as a question. So that's a big help. And one of them is real pertinent to what's going on right now. If you look around, your dumpsters are full because people are moving out and more people are moving in, and they're bringing their stuff in a truck, and the truck hits the bridge. Lots of times people are whacking into the bridge on Storrow Drive. It's at least an annual event. And Michael has raised the question, should individuals driving rental trucks have to pay for damages to bridges and overpasses they hit, no matter how expensive? And maybe if you can't pay, should there be greater penalties even if you can pay? Because it is super expensive. And you say, should people should you be able to be incarcerated for you being stupid? That's how you put it, jail for stupidity.
I know what I wrote there. And it all comes to light because of an article in today's Globe that many people probably already saw on CBS 4 here at the studio and the like, that one of the duck boats hit one of the bridges on Storrow Drive yesterday. And as you point out, we've got a lot of college kids coming in now. That duck boat driver won't be the first or last person this season to hit one of the bridges and potentially cause serious damage, not just to the duck boat and potentially the people there, but the U-Haul cars, the trucks and the like. There's some bridges are called the can opener bridge because when that top of that truck hits it, it just peels it back like a can opener. And we've got a bunch of different issues that become raised with respect to that. Is it a criminal matter? First of all, that type of operation where you ultimately tie up the roadway and injure both the truck as well as potentially the bridge or the overpass. And what are the civil ramifications for something like this? Because damage to a bridge could be a massive financial loss.
Like $1 million.
Yeah, it could be. And so should that become a matter that the individual or the company that owns the truck has to pay for?
As it is now, the individual is on the hook for it, right?
Well, if you're negligent in the operation, the argument is, well, why shouldn't you be? Storrow Drive is reasonably well marked. and so that you could see, if you're paying attention to the roadway, that you shouldn't be on Storrow Drive with a very large truck. But it's not just Storrow Drive if you think about it. As I was putting this together, I remembered that when I was in college, I worked for a law firm, and we would rent trucks to move equipment at times.
Yeah.
And one time I got the truck a little bit stuck under one of those Arby signs.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Illegal term.
The old hat that Arby's had.
Yeah.
And I started to hear it scrape, and I went out and looked, and it was tipped a little bit to one side, and the truck was wedged under it. If in fact I damaged the Arby sign, or someone else damages someone's sign because it's hanging there low on a vehicle that you may not be familiar driving with it that high, should you have to pay whatever those losses are? And the first question I ask is, well, why not? If you caused the problem, why shouldn't you have to pay for those damages? The problem is, with no cap, I mean, it could be 10,000, could be 50,000, could be 100,000 or more, especially when you think about the bridges. What about the public inconvenience then, because the bridge isn't usable? Are all of those damages then part of what you should owe because you were stupid?
So there are a lot of questions. Actually, there's one that we didn't officially bring up, and that is, folks, do you feel like you should be on the hook for seeing and comprehending every sign that's along the road with all the complications there are with driving? And, of course, you using your cell phone. Seriously, are you supposed to see every little sign while not getting hit by that guy and looking out for the pedestrian and watch out for that bike, and I got to see this sign here and here and here and here? Is it possible? Do you think it's too much to ask for you to see all the signs? Two, I guess, would be, should you be on the hook when you hit the bridge? And if you can't pay, should you go to jail? But there's a third possibility here. Mike, is it 13, the top height of a truck?
Trucks are not supposed to be larger than 13 feet 6 inches.
Yeah.
And so if we just build bridges to 14 feet or more, then this problem wouldn't exist. The problem is we have a lot of old bridges on Storrow Drive, and other places as well. We were coming back from the beach yesterday at Salisbury, and all of a sudden there was a small train bridge, and it narrowed to less than the width of two cars. If I had been paying better attention, I would have seen it faster and slowed down sooner. Because sometimes it's not just the height, it's the width.
Yeah.
Won't accept two vehicles and the like. And so that becomes the question is, well, so if you're just being negligent or careless, should you have to pay? And I want to back up for something you said. You said, well, how could you possibly pay attention to all these signs when you're doing that, one of which was being on your phone.
That was a joke.
Hey, oh,
that was
okay. Get off, because I was going to say, get off your phone. I drive my bicycle at times to school and elsewhere, and the cars that come the closest, someone is usually on their phone in some level of distraction. And that's a serious problem, obviously, for us all, and we all tend to do it. I think it's one of the other addictions that we have now.
You do it?
To our devices.
You do it?
I do it, and I try to do it exclusively hands-free, as I think most states, most intelligent states, require.
What about the notion that it's on the city for having dangerously low bridges? What are your thoughts? We have Joe in Jamaica Plain. Joe, you're on WBZ.
Great show. Listen, I'm not going to talk too long. I just had an idea. It's been stuck in my head for some time. But the problem's been around for years, low bridges. Sometimes vehicles, trucks seem to have larger tires or situation where the bridges just aren't properly made. So I was just thinking, instead of cities a lot of money from all over the countries that have this bridge problem, maybe we can just dig the road down a few feet.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing. Why not just dig down, make the road lower? How expensive could that be?
Well, that's that age-old solution when the truck is stuck under the bridge. They're all looking at it saying, what can they do? And some little kid comes and says, why don't you deflate some of the air out of the tires?
Right.
And so why can't the road? I mean, that is obviously a solution, is to if you can't move the bridge up, is to reduce the height of the road. I don't know. We'd have to talk to our city engineers and
maybe it would be get below the water table or something.
Well, I think if you think about the road on Storrow Drive, it's right adjacent to it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of places like that where you would think that maybe we can plan differently now than we did before, and there probably are ways to do it. Especially when I would guess, if we look, there are probably some bridges on Storrow Drive that are more problematic. And there's others where you say, listen, this is a problem that actually needs to be fixed. We're lucky with respect to the problem that just happened. There were 20 people on that duck boat. We're lucky that there weren't some serious injuries that came as a result of hitting the bridge.
And the duck boat driver, I can see a kid coming in from out of town not knowing, but don't you have to take a test or something on this when you're a duck boat driver?
Well, the whole duck boat issue there's a bunch of problems right now. We know that people have been seriously hurt. This is just the sort of the latest problem. What we have with the duck boats is that this driver was inexperienced and didn't quite understand what he should be doing. Again, raises the argument about, well, shouldn't they be better trained before you put them behind such a vehicle? Right. And on the duck boats, at least presently, until next year, there's only one person operating the vehicle. Goes back to your first question. Isn't it harder than to see all the signs and to be able to figure out what's going on if you're also responsible for conducting the tour and everything else? It might be that you could easily miss a sign because you're too occupied.
I feel like there are too many signs.
Well, but the signs are supposed to be making you aware of important information. That if the problem is, then get rid of the ones that are unnecessary to safe operation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, get rid of the distractions generally, and we would both agree that there's too many distractions, whether they're roadway or our own personal ones, in order for people to be able to be entirely safe in the operation of a vehicle. I just came down Storrow Drive. It's a busy, dangerous road, even when there's not a lot of traffic on it.
Yeah.
And to add in this feat with, okay, so now I'm a college student driving a U-Haul truck maybe for the first time, and all of a sudden, geez, I got these bridges that are 2 feet lower than they should be. One might realize that this is likely a highly dangerous activity.
Yeah. And you mentioned, why not put a thing at the entrance of each road that contains a low bridge, same height as the bridge. So if you were going to hit the bridge, you would hit this thing, which would wreck your truck, but not the bridge. It was a steel beam. Explain the steel beam theory.
Well, there's a couple things. Some of the bridges have steel beams in front of the bridge in order to stop the damage to the bridge. So that you're going to ruin the vehicle if the vehicle exceeds that height, but you're not going to damage the bridge.
Why not have a beam at the beginning of the road? That way, I mean, if someone goes down and can't continue, then there's a terrible backup.
Well, it doesn't have to be the beam. What we do see on some places like that, for instance, at even a lot of the parking garages in Boston, because they have a relatively low height, much lower than a 13, 12, or even 10-foot height, they have a sign that is movable.
So whack it on chains or something?
It's on chains. So if you whack it, you shouldn't be going any further because next thing you're going to whack is concrete.
So we must not have those up.
But I assume the only way you could get on, as this person did, is there couldn't have been such a sign existing as to what the height is. To me, that's where the first place we start. Any point of access to these where we know the bridges are below that 13-foot, 6-inch height, they should have such barriers.
Okay. Our call situation might be a little awkward because the system is down, so thank you, Joe. Next is Brad in Brockton. How you doing, Brad?
Hey, Bradley. How are you?
Good.
Sounds like I'm talking to myself with the same name. You know, I've been driving in Boston for years, and the one thing that I've noticed, in my opinion, is the signage is just not adequate. I'll give you an example. If you're coming down Cambridge Street from Brighton towards the Doubletree, you can turn right if you're driving a truck to make a delivery behind the Doubletree, but you can't go any farther than that. But there's a sign there. It's illuminated. Got red lights, and it says, truck warning, low bridge, take exit. But I noticed the sign has some of the lights that are out. Not all the letters are lit up. Just as an example. Also on Storrow Drive, too, a lot of the entranceways, say from over near the BU Bridge and University Road, or if you go Berkeley Street all the way over to Back Street to get to Storrow, the signs are just not adequate. I think it would probably be worthwhile to get illuminated signs that are actually completely illuminated. That might solve half of the problem. The other thing I was thinking, too, is with the college students, I don't know if the rental companies do this or not, but when the college kids are renting trucks going in Boston or renting from out of state going to Boston, the rental companies should probably have some kind of a warning for the people renting the truck saying, hey, listen, you're a college student, don't go on Storrow Drive. I don't know if they do that or not.
Yeah, you would hope they actually would provide some type of warning. My guess, though, is if they're renting them, out of state or outside the Boston area, they're not even aware that the danger exists. And so, these folks have got their trucks loaded up. They're more concerned about getting into their new digs than really thinking that there's some significant danger there. And that's, I guess, the question that it leads to. And, as you start to think about it, is, well, if there's a danger that exists like that, why isn't there some obligation on the city or the town, the state, to make sure that the signage, as you point out, is sufficiently illuminated and easy to see so that we try to eliminate some of this? Because it's not just going to be physical damage. There will be people seriously hurt as a result of this type of violent collision.
Right. I don't think it's going to be feasible to change the infrastructure of Storrow and, raise a bridge, lower the road. Really simply, I just think that any access points to Storrow, Soldiers Field, that whole area, any access point should have a brightly illuminated sign. And again, to reference the sign over by the DoubleTree, anybody that's driven by there knows that little illuminated sign with red lettering, half of the letters are unlit. And, if you're driving a truck, you might not see that. And if you do see that, you're sitting there trying to read it. Next thing you know, oh, no, I'm committed to getting on that.
Yeah, that's negligence on the part of the city.
Yeah, well, and that's the argument is that it's not just the driver's fault if we put them in a situation where they're not likely to be able to recover from relatively quickly under the circumstances.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for your time, guys. Hopefully a solution can be found for this because, like I said, I think it's fairly simple. Better signage would probably prevent most, if not all, of the incidents on there. So.
Okay. Thanks, Brad. And
thanks.
Signage that will hit your truck if you ignore it.
Well, and that's the key here is just to make sure that we have some, foolproof method of making sure that they don't get to as far as as some of these vehicles are getting. But that is going to require a greater investment in the infrastructure so that we make sure that we protect people from their own foolhardy actions.
617-254-1030. So we throw that other question in here. Should the rental companies kind of be on the hook, or should they be expected to notify anybody going to Boston that they have low bridges? I don't think so. I think that it shouldn't be on them. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think here's the problem, and this is, we talked about it a little bit originally. The bills on this type of damage can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So it might be worth their while.
Kid, who's going to pay for this? Who's got that type of money for the damage? Or do you say, or does the city or town or state say, well, listen, that's just the expense of having roadways and the like? Because then that means it's on us, and we didn't damage it at all. So you wonder, how do you want to share this risk and this responsibility? It would be nice if we figured out a way to avoid it, but I've lived here all my life, and it seems like every year, if at least once a year, someone is hitting one of these bridges. And it's not just a Boston area problem. If you go online, there's one, I saw one, it said 11foot8.com, and they have all these videos of people hitting the bridges. It's so
complicated enough as it is. Bill, you're on WBZ, Bill.
Yeah, with all the self-driving cars, I don't understand why they don't have an app that goes into these trucks or cars that gives them an idea of the height of the bridges.
That's a good idea.
You would think GPS should be able to help with that. There's no reason why that information couldn't be inputted in to sort of even give them a warning that you're getting too close to this.
Yeah, you could type in the height of your vehicle, and it could tell you no go, where not to go. That's pretty genius, Bill.
Yeah, I believe that technology will resolve the problem.
Well, you have to use
doesn't resolve stupidity, though.
Still use the thing. Are you a guy who can write code? Are you going to write the app and make $1 million?
Well, I was trying to write an app for locating houses and locating buildings, numbers and everything else, so that it brings you right to the building, because the GPSs don't bring you right to a building. So if you're a quick responder or you're in police work, you need the technology to bring you right to the front door.
Really? You can't put in 87 Main Street and it won't take you there?
Well, it doesn't get that. It's not that precise, is what he's saying, because of the satellite and the like. Even I've noticed that with my own address. When you put it in, it's telling me I'm home about 4 or 5 houses before I actually am. So that would be, I guess, the precision with which you'd have to be able to get that done.
That's military
for law
grade,
enforcement
right?
and the like. Yeah, you would think, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, the military has that application and guidance systems for missiles and rockets, but
Right.
we don't have it yet for civilian. But anyways, great show. Thank you very much. Have a
Yes,
great night.
Bill, of course.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. It's always a pleasure when Michael's here. And we go to Joe from Natick. How you doing, Joe?
Hi.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, I worked for the MDC, for 37 years, and I spent a lot of time on Storrow Drive and Memorial Drive.
So you're responsible for this mess, then?
Yeah, I'm responsible for this mess. And, you can't just dig the road deeper, because there's great big sewer pipes and drain pipes
Good point.
10 feet in diameter that's under the roadway. So you really can't just dig the road deeper.
Figures.
But I believe there should be some electronic light beam before the entrance, and when the truck breaks that light beam, big flashing lights come on and everything to warn the people, look, your truck's too big for this bridge. And all the people from out of state and stuff, they really can't be responsible for reading all the signs and stuff. There should be electronic beam that goes across the road before the truck reaches the bridge, and it starts these flashing lights that will wake up anybody that the bridge is too low.
Yeah, that's a great idea, too. I mean, that helps to alleviate the problem that Bradley had, which was there's just too many signs drawing our attention away from the roadway already. Those flashing lights certainly are going to draw your attention to it.
Yeah.
And again, that would seem like a relatively cheap fix.
Right. You break the light beam, and then a big video
with all
screen
the
drops
electronic-
down and points at you. Stop your truck. I don't know. Some people wouldn't even know. What are those? Hey, look at those lights, Bob. Smash. They would just ignore the lights.
Yeah, but it's just
It's
one
something.
It's worth a shot. I mean, there's got to be ways to try and avoid this.
Here's another one. The light, it's not just a laser beam. It has some sort of current that disables your vehicle. So the beam hits it and gish.
Okay, but leaving the vehicle stalled on Storrow Drive has other potential ramifications to it that could be harmful as well.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Let's not do that. Thanks a lot, my man.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
WBZ. And we have John from Quincy. Thank you, Mark. John, you're on WBZ.
All right, thanks, guys. You guys make a good team. I always like when Michael's there. That you guys work great together.
I actually think that.
Thank you.
I'm honest. I honestly believe that we should do, Michael, a national show.
Oh, I'm ready.
Either this one.
Midnight to
gets
5 makes my other
broadcast.
job hard.
You
though.
don't have to do all 5 hours.
Okay.
Maybe a 2-hour show that all the CBS or I don't know, because the stuff we talk about could be talked about anywhere. Anyway, thanks. I agree. What's up?
No, I like it. I hope these guys from MIT or the college, because I like the app idea was a really good idea about,
Yep.
I think eventually it will catch up and it will, I mean, they can tell you where a cop is. It tells you where accidents. I mean, it can easily, have a stationary thing there. That's a good idea. But I was thinking, you just said about having the laser thing come out. I mean, they have like cars. If you back up your car, it's going to tell you if a kid's riding a bicycle, it slams your brakes, stuff like that. Put the thing on top of the truck so it can see the bridge coming up and stop your vehicle. That's what I think they should try to come up with.
Do you mean like ABS, like automatic, like car stops, your car stops automatically, and they have this thing up high that can see ahead 100 feet, and if it sees a bridge that breaks, makes your brakes go
Well,
on?
it's not just bridges. If you think about that, because that's an interesting idea too. To try and put the onus on the cities and towns and state, they don't have a lot of resources and aren't likely to do it. The suggestion would be, well, let's make it an obligation of the truck manufacturers. They've got money. They're making money by renting the trucks.
Yeah.
How about we tell them they have to
Figure
put
it
some
out.
type of sensor there?
Yeah.
And because power lines, if you start to think about it, there's a lot of things that those trucks can come in contact with that potentially cause these problems. Would you?
Right.
So we're going to require truck manufacturers where the truck is more than 10 feet tall to do X, some type of sensor.
Okay, that's all set then.
Most of the time it's these rental trucks. You don't really see like these professional truck drivers
Right.
getting stuck in a situation. And almost every time I do Storrow Drive every day, and they do have those rubber flaps that, as you come out of the out of the tunnel to go onto Storrow. Those flaps. I know it's probably not on every entrance. You get the back bay, you can cut onto Storrow Drive, but almost every possible entrance I can think of, they do have those mud flaps that are down there. That will hit the top of your vehicle. So I don't know how these guys are getting around this.
You know what I bet happens? Sometimes kids, freshmen in college to be, will hit the mud flap and go, "What was that? What was that?" I don't know. Nothing. Is everybody okay? All right, let's go. They don't know what the heck it is. They probably just move on. Wow, what was that, Marjorie?
Right.
And I was thinking that because they've been talking about with this duck boat crash is that the traffic was diverted from Beacon Street onto Storrow Drive, and he didn't expect to be on there. But what I'm wondering is how you could even be diverted to it without hitting one of those flaps, which would say, wait a minute, I got a problem here. Because there should be no entrance onto Storrow Drive where those bridges are where you can get a truck of that size on there. I mean, that to me is that there is some obligation on the city or state to make sure that that's not possible. Because once you're there, then now we get a real problem is, well, what do I do? Do I keep going? Do I stop? And how the heck am I going to get off this road?
Another problem, usually, I guess, is kids that are driving that truck have never driven a truck before, so
Right.
they're probably nervous as heck just driving the thing.
In this big city.
In the big city, don't know where to go. What about parking the thing? That has to be such a bummer. You got a truck, you got to unload it.
You think parking in the back bay is difficult?
How do you not get a ticket? It must be automatic that you get a ticket.
You probably accept the ticket because there's
Just
probably
the
no
price of
way these
doing
kids are
business.
going to be able to back that truck into a spot
Yeah.
that's
And probably get a new ticket every hour or something. Just keep putting those orange things on.
tickets better than the bill for destroying the bridge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Maybe after Michael leaves in the wee hours, I'll ask you, hey, when you move, do you do it yourself or do you hire somebody? I mean, just think of all the problems you avoid by hiring somebody. Yeah, it's expensive, but gee, doing it yourself is awful. You have moved office stuff, right?
When we were younger, that's when that happened. We used to move offices. They'd acquire companies, move companies, and the like. So we'd do it. And I mean, I don't mind moving stuff. It's sort of exercise. It's a question of how much stuff you actually have to move, and how much money are you probably saving.
You have to lift heavy stuff. You could blow an O-ring. You have to drive. You get in an accident, and you have to park it and be all nervous about getting towed while you're parked. You have to lug stuff up the stairs.
Just hire some professionals and allow them to
try to
do
get
it.
a good deal, get the best deal you can do, and say it's just for me, kind of the cost of doing business.
Well, and especially if you add in this piece that we're talking about tonight. You're driving a large, unfamiliar vehicle. There's a certain risk and likely some liability that attaches to that when you mess up. And you're likely to mess up because you're just not used to driving a vehicle of that size, where the professional drivers obviously are.
Isn't it strange? If you have a small house, you have a small house amount of stuff. If you get a big house, within months, it's filled up with stuff.
Yep.
You don't really need, obviously.
I think that's a topic you can discuss with your listeners after
What's
I'm gone.
that?
self-storage facilities, the growth and the development of that. Why do we need so much stuff that we now need these self-service storage facilities to store our extra stuff that we don't even use?
If you need a storage facility, you have too much stuff.
Yeah, don't you?
Basically, yeah.
Right. Why do we need to have all, and they're everywhere, and they're not inexpensive.
Right.
Could be a couple $100 a month to store stuff that you really don't need and don't use, because otherwise it wouldn't be in storage.
So that's God's way of telling you have too much stuff.
Are we just consuming too much stuff?
Yes. All right. We've sort of gotten away from the legal here and just kind of having a common sense conversation about what to do about the darn low-hanging bridges and the kids that come in every year and run into them. It's no small thing. It's a public safety hazard. It's expensive. I don't know. How many times can those bridges get hit before they have to be totally fixed?
Well, and that's the issue with respect to the level of damages. You know, to bring it back to the law a little bit, there are criminal penalties here that you're likely looking at as well, not just the civil infractions for, you know, sort of the speeding type issue that might be attendant to it with the exceeding the being on a roadway where you exceed the height. One relatively serious charge that could occur is with respect to you could be charged with driving to endanger, because what you've done is either reckless or negligent to the point where you've now endangered the lives of the public by taking the vehicle on a roadway where it's not permitted. And
if you were my lawyer,
yeah,
which probably someday you will be.
I expect to. I know I'm on speed dial.
So I would expect you to say, no, it's not. Doesn't rise to the to negligence or criminal negligence anyway. Not negligence.
I would say that, and I would say that it doesn't rise to the level of driving to endanger.
I just didn't see the sign,
but
man.
that's because I'm your lawyer.
Yeah.
The government might make a completely different argument. Is that, you know, there were numerous opportunities to stop and realize what you were doing. You bypassed somehow the sign that hit your car or should have hit it, told you were in trouble. There are numerous signs that say, you know, commercial vehicles not permitted on Storrow Drive.
If I don't see them, is that negligence?
Yes.
If I just don't see them.
If you should see them. Yeah, but I didn't see the speed limit, Judge. I certainly shouldn't be obligated to go 50 miles an hour. Let me know how that one works out for you. Right?
Yeah, you're supposed to be on my side.
No. Okay, I am on your side, but I'm trying. We're trying to have a come to Jesus meeting.
We're having a pre-trial talk.
Well, right. You understand the reality. The fact that you didn't see something you should have, that's not a defense. I do like the argument that you advanced is that we are so bombarded and inundated with all of these signs and extraneous material, we can't focus on what's really important. That's why I like the idea about, well, maybe let's make sure all the signs are illuminated, and the other idea about flashing lights. And
Can we counter through the city and say, look, city, this happens every year. You have absolute reasonable expectation that it's going to happen again, and it's incumbent upon you in that situation to do something about it and fix it, and you didn't. So we're suing you, city.
I told my law students tonight the best defense is a good offense. If I'm going to have to defend against a suit for damage to the bridge, I am likely going to argue that this is something reasonably foreseeable by you. You should have taken greater steps to prevent me from not only damaging your bridge but damaging my vehicle, because we all know that this is a very common occurrence, especially this time of year. And if you've got low-hanging bridges, low-hanging signs, low-hanging overpasses, or utility wires, this is something that the public should be warned about because potentially they're in danger. And if the city or town or whoever's responsible for that dangerous condition doesn't warn you, the argument is that they should bear some of this liability.
We did warn you there's a sign, and we would say, yes, these warnings have been in place for a long time, for decades, and every year, in spite of these warnings, it happens. So clearly these warnings are inadequate.
That's exactly right. That there just simply isn't enough. We've been down this road. You need to go to law school. Or you already can. You don't need to because you already know the law and the argument.
Yeah, I'm like Donald Trump. I know ISIS better than...
You are the best of everything, Bradley.
So we do have Skip from Gloucester.
Hello, yes?
Yes, we do have...
Hey, Skip.
It's a very simple problem to solve.
Yeah.
Take a 10-inch piece of PVC piping, and hang it across the road at the same height as the bridge. and you put it, I don't know, 50 feet before the bridge. You hit that piece of PVC tubing, and you think a bomb went off because it just echoes.
PVC tubing. How thick? How much would the diameter be?
Oh, probably 10 inches, 10 inches.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Well, it's pretty cheap too. Is what it is.
Yeah,
the point
cheap.
is.
I saw it down in Virginia Beach in one of the overhangs in the hotel. It's got one hanging up, and there was a truck in front of me. Went and hit that thing, and it sounded just like a bomb going off.
All
like
right.
a drum.
Yeah, that's along the lines of what a lot of the garages do, and that it really is a relatively simple solution. So then, why hasn't it been done? Right? I mean, there are ways in which we could do better, because we know the present warnings and the present prohibitions don't seem to be doing enough. And sooner or later, someone's going to be very, very seriously hurt when this happens.
So
That's very true. There probably isn't enough money in it for people to do it.
But, a penny saved is a penny earned, so there is a lot of money in it.
And the solution you proposed is really very economical.
Yes, very good, Skip. Very good.
Okay, have a good day.
Absolutely, Skip.
Thanks, Skip.
Okay, 617-254-1030. The show is off to a rip-roaring start, thanks to Michael Coyne. And we have custom designed two very excellent questions for the next hour as well. And I'll give you a little bit of a heads up there, too. One is, should you have to tell the police the truth? And should the police be able to lie to you?
Right.
You tell me the police are allowed to lie to you.
They are.
They're allowed to say things like, we have a witness that said they saw you do it. And they're allowed to do that. And should they be allowed to do that? What if you give information based on that lie? Shouldn't that be thrown out? Well, we'll get to the details on that. And should you have to? Do you have to? And should you have to tell the whole truth? And that is in relation to the Ryan Lochte thing. You know the story there. And the other thing is a pet peeve. It's beyond peeve. A pet injustice, a pet double standard. The idea of the all-female gym, to me, is just unfair. Now, do I really want to go to an all-female gym? No, I don't care, except it's a really good gym on the way to work for me. And I can't go because I'm a male, and I'm totally discriminated against, yet women are filing suits to bring down all-male clubs. Like there's a yacht club, a local yacht club that had a problem. Maybe they're still having a problem. And we want to talk about whether or not it's really justifiable to have a double standard like that when it comes to keeping you out. It might be a perfectly fine gym on really close to your house, and you can't go because of your sex. Now, isn't that sexual discrimination? It absolutely and totally is, as far as I'm concerned. And Michael looked into it, right?
I did, because this has been a pet peeve of yours for some time.
And we just been talking about it casually for some time, but you looked into it. And what do you folks think about that? Remember, it's not me really wanting to go to this gym. I just have a thing about fairness. So
you want what you can't have, like most of us. You wouldn't want to attend
if they said okay.
If they said okay, you said, nah, you know what? I like my present gym.
No, actually, I probably would because it's on the way.
So you're going to be the only guy in this gym, and that won't bother you at all.
I don't know. So clearly, if you're going to go to law school, you want to have Dean Coyne be your dean. And you just started a new year, but is there a way that young folks can come visit and check you out? How do you do that?
We call our admissions office. We have people come watch classes all the time, sort of get a feel for whether law school makes sense for them, whether they like who we are. We have open houses every month for people to sort of come, take a visit, see some of the professors and staff. And if people want to sit in on classes, they can do that all the time and really sort of get a feel for what the law school environment is like. And they should do it. I tell them that to do it not just for our school, but they should ask about other schools if they're interested.
So if you know somebody that might be interested, you hear they're interested in law school, suggest that they give them a buzz over there and go visit at the Massachusetts School of Law. Thank you very much, Dean Coyne, for coming in. And
thanks Bradley.
Thanks for the treat. He brought pizza and whoopie pies and those anisette biscotti.
Yep.
Thank you. It's WBZ.